Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today is another Sunday special, so we're going to be going through the market and talking about my trade ideas and my thoughts for the week ahead, mostly in the Forex market. Now, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot of stuff to cover here. Before we get too far into the video, I do want to encourage you guys to like the video down below. I do these, I sort of prepare for them each Saturday and Sunday, and then I put it up for you guys. So as long as people are enjoying them, I will continue to do them. So please make sure to like the video down below. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about. Before we go anywhere, I want to talk about one trade that I am in right now. It's actually the only trade I currently have open. It is a trade on New Zealand yen. And the reason I want to talk about this is just because during these Sunday specials, I try and make them somewhat educational as well and just talk about sort of what my thoughts are. But this was one of the pairs that I liked the most last week. It pulled back to a major level of demand, and I am very bullish on this currency pair overall, just because I am a strong bull on the New Zealand at this moment and a pretty much a bear on the yen. The major reasons are the New Zealand dollar long-term has talked about being one of the first economies to potentially hike rates, saying things as early as 2022 before. So that sort of generally gives me a bullish bias on the NZD. On top of that, the yen is sort of a risk-off currency. People usually sell the yen during times of strength in the global markets, just because it's sort of this like slow and steady strategy to buy the yen and hold your money in the Japanese banks. So when we see markets are doing really, really well, people are like, well, I could either stay in the yen, keep like a small gain going, right? This might be arguably the yen. But if things go well in the world, people might choose to go put their money in the New Zealand banks, which offer potentially higher interest rates at a certain point. Their economy is potentially more set to grow during an optimistic time, as their economy is heavily based in trade, etc. So, big picture, I was long biased on the NZDJPY. I'm still in this trade and plan on continuing to manage this one going forward. If you are interested in seeing the trades that I take in real time, I call out everything that I enter and exit inside of our premium group. You can see it right here. And we actually have a 25% off sale right now on our gold membership package. If you want information about that, if you want to see trades that I'm taking as well as join our community, we have chat rooms, there's live webinars, we do fundamental research by some of our analysts here at A1 Trading, and there's a whole team of people putting this together for our members. So if you guys are interested, please feel free to sign up down below. There's a link down below in the description, and there's my sales pitch. But for those of you guys who have been meaning to join or you want to join, now's your chance to get 25% off that gold membership. Okay, without further ado, let's start with EURUSD here. I talked about a trade that I was in or I'm still in, and like I said, of course, I will be updating that as we go along for members. Hopefully that one can keep running this week, but we will certainly see. All right, EURUSD here on the 4-hour chart. I am short bias on this pair. And Frank was actually sending me a text. Frank is quite bearish on the euro this week. Let me actually just pull up. I'm curious to see what Frank said. So if we go over to the website, this is our site, and Frank is one of our analysts here. So Frank, I know, is very bearish as well, and he was saying, so EU falls below its 200 EMA for the first time since last March, and it is currently resting on support. This small recovery move could be an opportunity to gauge in a short position. If price ends up coming back to its moving average, it will have to test resistance as well, which could end up sending EU lower. So yeah, from a technical view, I pretty much agree. And Frank didn't mention it in this article, but he has in past ones, basically, that both of us are sort of biased to the south side in terms of favoring that US dollar, with things looking very, very good, or at least seeming so, to recover quickly here in the US, vaccine rollouts and et cetera, right? So a favoring of the US economy over the euro. So big picture, that's what we're looking at. From a technical view, very much agree with Frank in the sense that if we go to the daily chart, we broke this 200 MA very, very well, which was a long-term sort of bullish safe haven, as I was talking about. The line in the sand for bulls was to see if we could hold this and rally back. We did not get that, and now I'm with Frank in the sense that pullbacks look more like shorting opportunities for me this week. So if we get a pullback to 1.185 and I don't have any other trades open, or something else happens, and or maybe I just have, free space in my account, then very well could see myself looking for potential shorts. So with that said, going to be watching this pair closely this week. Again, this is one of my favorite currency pairs right now, just because I was bullish on the euro for a while with the US dollar being so weak and, no plans of sort of, defending the currency. But now with the economy bouncing back so much, bond buying and the yield rate rising in the US for bonds, there's quite a bit of, bullish catalyst in my view for the US dollar until further notice. And I should also mention that as listed on the site as well, I usually just share sort of my rough forecasts here. It's me right now. Frank will probably be doing this in the future, but feel free to come here anytime and look at the forecasts, and you can see what's going on with the euro. So, my target here is probably 1.17, which is this green area that we've been talking about on streams and on videos for a while. So I'm watching for a move, something like there. But if we do take a break on the way down this week, something like this, a pullback, I can see that sort of thing coming into play. Definitely one of my more interesting setups right now. Now, before we go further, let me go back to the site one more time, and we're going to go over to retail sentiment. Let's see what the retail traders think on average about EURUSD. Here it is, the first one on the list. EURUSD, 19% of retail traders are short, and 80% are long, and 1% I have no idea what they're doing. But I think it's just the way the math works out. It like floats the decimals and then gets rid of them in the code or whatever. But anyways, so what we get the idea of is most retail traders, a strong majority, think that EURUSD is bullish. Now, the reason that matters is because when all of a retail crowd or a strong majority of a retail crowd is bullish on a currency pair, usually, not always, but a lot of times we do see the market continue lower, running their stops. And just because retail traders, we know that they mostly lose, right? We know that they're most of the time not profitable. And so if we see them all long, it's probably a red flag to try and rush into long positions, in my view. I'm more bearish on the pair and arguably, even more bearish because of this confluence with retail traders being long and, only 19% being short. On top of that, let's go run over here. I want to take a look at the COT reports as well. Let's look at the euro and see. We did have some most recent data come out last week, so let's see how that's looking. All right, so we'll go to non-commercial. This is one I like to look. Okay, yeah, so still same old. We didn't see any major spikes bullish for the euro. It seems that, smart money, the big money, the non-commercials here are still relatively bearish on the euro. So keeps me strong on my bearish bias going into this week. And so that is how the full compass look at euro. So I looked at the fundamentals. Let me just recap what I did there for you guys. I looked at the fundamental analysis first. Then I looked at the technical analysis. Then I looked at the sentiment analysis. And usually this is how I trade, and this is how I look for my setups, is I try and combine as many information pieces as I can to try and make my trades more meaningful. Okay, so I'm looking at the technicals, the fundamentals, and the sentiment analysis, and then coming up with conclusions. Anyways, what this tells me is my overall idea with the euro is bearish. Okay, so let's look at the pound. The pound is a little bit more tricky in my view because the pound is stronger than the euro. If we were to quickly look at euro GBP, you can see these two majors lined up against each other. The euro is just getting hammered compared to the pound, which is doing quite well. Arguably, one of the biggest reasons for this is that the vaccine rollout in the UK has been considered or perceived much better than in Europe, and that is a direct impact on GDP. If vaccines come out faster, GDP improves faster, right? The sooner people are back on the streets, the people are back in their jobs, people are back spending, and consumer demand rises. All of that is bullish for an economy. Now, if one country is lagging like that, like Europe, then that could be considered a bearish thing or a slow recovery thing. And we actually see that reflected in the GDP as well. So let me show you this really quick. If we go to the site and we go to GDP data. So if we go to the site and we look at GDP data and we go to the UK, you can see we've had a nice bounce back there. The GDP growth rate was 16.1% and then 1%. We'll look at Europe in the same period of time. 12.5% and 0.75%, negative 0.7%. You can actually see that this is underperforming, arguably, the UK, right? And so, sort of makes sense that we have a downtrend here. Now, with the pound dollar, it's a little bit trickier because you have two economies that seem to be doing well, two economies that seem to be arguably improving. Now, based on this, you could argue that the UK is rallying a little bit faster, and arguably maybe that continues, right? So I would not be super bullish or bearish on this pair personally. I'll just say that from the start. I don't have a strong bias over one of these currencies over the other, but I do want to say that from just a technical view and just from where a momentum is looking like, it looks like price could do one of these, right? It could just continue its trend just because, again, I'm a trend follower. I'm going with the trend 9 times out of 10 to sort of go with the dominant market energy. So if we see breakouts this week, for those of you who are a little bit more technical traders, what I'd be watching for, let's go to the 4-hour chart. What I would be watching for would be probably a break of this downward structure, right? If we see that break of the downward structure, strong chance, I would say, that the pound dollar could rally back to previous highs. So where are the trades in that? Well, the trades that I see, if you're a bear, of course, if you have a fundamental bearish bias on the pound dollar, or you just like short-term technical trades, watch this level for sure. This level here was offering some great support for the bulls, but then actually broke down, and now we are retesting that. So as we come into that level, watch to see how this one reacts. But for the bull setups, I would say that if price was to break through this level, one of these guys might be a decent trade idea as well. So let's say, you get the breakout above the trend line, you get a break above resistance, and then you say, okay, well, I want to put a stop, a relatively tight stop. So if price keeps going lower, then no worries. We just take a small loss. But if you are, a bull on pound dollar and you think the trend will continue, a pretty logical place to think the trend could continue to would be back up to this 1.42 level. And the cool thing here is that this gives you a really great risk to reward. That's a 5.4 to 1. Maybe you're a bigger swing trader. Maybe you don't want to take so many trades, or you're looking just for sort of a big move and you want to give this trade a little bit more room to run. This is still a great risk to reward at about a 2 to 1 here, with a stop underneath the previous swing low here. So both trade setups look decent to me. If we get a nice little conviction to the upside, looking for that move this week or maybe next week could be one to watch for those who are pound dollar bulls. Okay. So, that's like the biggest one I see, just because that's going with the overall trend here on pound dollar. Let's look at gold. I want to see what's going on with gold really quick. So I commented on gold yesterday, actually on Friday's stream, and we talked about how this pair is just absolutely range bound right now, just back and forth and back and forth. I think probably this week, if we get any sort of major news or major catalyst, we could see gold really break out here. I don't know if it's going up or down, but we could watch either direction. So what I mean by that is, let's say that you get some sort of really strong move up on gold, right? For those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, I really like those sort of I like the very strong break and retest opportunities. And this looks really interesting on gold because you've got sort of a tightly knit spot. And I kind of look at this as like a spring. It's like a spring that's like winding up, right? And then when it starts moving, it's going to really spring out, right? So that's usually how I view these sort of consolidation zones, where we just get very, very little breakouts or big moves, and we're just kind of tightening our position until it probably at some point volatility will expand and move significantly more. So, same thing on the bottom. We don't know what's going to happen this week in terms of news or what's going to come out, but if news comes out and things are perceived as very bullish for the dollar, it could cause gold to move lower. If things get scary in the world or whatever, that also can cause gold to drop quickly. Maybe a weakening dollar could be good for gold. So some things to watch out for. But from a technical view, this is interesting because what you have is you have a range that is very, very tight. And if price breaks out, it could be a nice little place to look for, break, retest, go long here, right? With a stop sort of pretty close by and either a target or trailing stops somewhere at resistance. Some levels to keep in mind here. We've got some supply up here at 1810. It seems like a world away, but you never know with gold because gold can really, really get moving. And when it does, it can be a monster. So these are two of the biggest areas that I see, sort of bigger picture. You got a closer area here. Arguably, you could also make the point that this level might be in mind as well. 1770, as we've talked about on stream. We've talked about that level quite a bit. So those are some levels that I see here on gold. So watching for the expansion of volatility. Let me pull up my ATR indicator really quick. So this is just the average true range. This is telling you what volatility looks like on any single chart that you're looking at. So the ATR is about 7.8, let's say just about $8 per day on average moved. You can see that back here during higher volatility, it was moving $14 to $15 a day. And even more back here is moving $18 a day. So you have to remember with gold, it's right now the volatility is decreasing, which means things are moving less. However, when things spike, they can get really aggressive on gold and markets can move dramatically. So keep an eye on the ATR if you like this indicator. I really like it just to see sort of what how volatile a market is. It also helps me with stop losses because if I know that on average this thing is moving $10 a day, I probably, if I'm looking to swing trade, or sorry, this is a 4-hour chart, so it's actually $10 per 4 hours, which is even more aggressive. But that might say, well, hey, if I want to take a trade and I want to know if I'm right or wrong quickly, I don't want to make a stop loss that's $50. I want to make a stop loss that's 10 or maybe even less, $10 on gold, right? Which in pips is different, right? Because pips on gold are a little bit confusing, but you can use this tool here and that will tell you. So it's 4,000 pips there, 6,500 pips there. That number on the right side there is what you're looking at. You can do that by just on TradingView, just shift, left click, and then drag. TradingView is really awesome, by the way. There's a link in the description. If you don't have a TradingView account, sign up using that link. It really does help the channel because we have a sponsorship with TradingView, and if you use that link and sign up for an account, it looks really good for me. So please and thank you. But yeah, so that's what I have for gold. I'm not going to say too much more on that. Those are some of the major areas that I see and will be watching for going into this week. Let's take a look at GBP JPY. I know a lot of traders want to talk about pound yen, which absolutely rallied off of support last week. And to me, looks like it's probably headed back to the highs here and maybe even beyond. So pound yen has been such a winner this year. It's been so bullish. And as we pulled back here, retail traders were heavily, heavily short. And I ended up getting long. I didn't get long, but I tried to go long here. It didn't work out. And then I ended up taking that position that I told you at the beginning of the video, which was NZDJPY, because I liked NZD even better than I liked GBP. But I still like GBP. So I tried going long. I got stopped out on GJ. I was a little bit early here. I tried this area here, and then that did not work out. So it happens. It happens to the best of us and to the worst of us, unfortunately. But I took a long on GJ, didn't work out, got stopped out. And then price came down to this area. Beautiful long entry. For those of you guys who caught that, then very, very nice. I know some members inside of the group caught that. But again, I just chose to go with that trade that I showed you guys at the beginning, this New Zealand yen trade, which arguably is not doing as well as GJ, but I'm still happy with how it's doing so far. I basically bought it for the very same reason. Shorting the yen, pretty bearish on the yen, and bullish on some of these growth economies. I like New Zealand, and price was pulling back to this sort of zone that I spotted, and I ended up getting long. It went against me for a short period of time. The stop was relatively tight, and then I moved stops to break even here. So we will see going into this week how things go. And yeah, so I think pound yen probably headed back to the highs. For bears out there, I would be cautious. But if the bears are out there, watch for some sort of rejection here. If we get a triple top and we get some sort of lower high, maybe there's arguments to be made for bears on pound yen at some point. However, I do think that this thing is a runaway train. This thing is bullish, and I'd much rather be on the bullish side personally. Same thing with, like I said, New Zealand yen. So for those of you who are looking to get bullish for the intraday traders, I would say that if you could get a pullback here, I like the idea of going long on the pullback. As always, this is not financial advice. This is just me sharing my ideas and opinions. But if you like pound yen and you're bullish on this like I am, I'm going to keep an eye on this level here. So if I have open positions or open slots basically for my trading, I very well could see myself taking a trade like this if we get a pullback, just because I think price is probably rallying back to the 152.3 level going into this week. We'll see if I'm right. I could be wrong, but that would be where I'm at with pound yen. This is sort of a breakout retest entry here if price does decide to give a second chance to buyers. So that's what I'm looking for on pound yen. Guys, that's going to wrap up the video for you. Thank you very much for joining me on another Sunday special. You guys are the best. If you made it to the end, comment down below. If you guys made it through this video and you did your full analysis for the week with me, then you are awesome, and thank you very much for taking the time. If you are also, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're looking to join our private group and you've been meaning to do so, there's a 25% off sale going on our gold membership. So if you've been waiting to do it, now is your chance. 25% off using code YTVIP and the link down below in the description. That information is there for you to check out. Thank you guys so much for being here. Happy week ahead, and stay safe. We'll see you next time.